Hello, everyone. Johnny back again here for Snorckl. We got another podcast episode for you. The previous one, which you can find on our channel, was the little preview we wanted to do leading up to Infinity War. We talked about some of the MCU movies that we did in our little mini marathon. We had predictions about what was going to happen in Infinity War, deaths, Infinity Stones, and whatnot. And now we have lived through Infinity War. Barely made it out. Barely made it out alive. And I am joined yet again by my good friend Gabe. Gabe, say hello.
What's going on, everybody? Good to be back. We were just in the studio here a couple days ago.
Yeah, Gabe, if you have heard the other episode, he is a big MCU fan, even bigger than me. And so, Gabe, you were really, really, really looking forward to this movie, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I've never been more excited than I was for this. And very, very pleased to say I'm not disappointed in the slightest. Like, not even remotely.
Yeah, I will say as a quasi MCU skeptic, like I said in the other episode, I've been really happy with MCU recently in their last 4 or 5 movies. Infinity War, but I was still nervous about Infinity War because it's such a huge movie. It's never been done like this before with all these characters, and it's obviously a huge event. And so I was worried, but I can say it fucking lived up to the hype. It really did. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call it a masterpiece, but it's definitely a pretty amazing achievement all around. The Russo brothers obviously directed it. The guys that wrote this, I'm not sure what their names are. They've done other films, including Civil War, and they're doing the next one as well. And Kevin Feige, of course, and just all the actors that are involved and everyone willing and able that did this project. It's fucking insane to me. And we're not going to get into spoilers for another couple minutes, but my initial reaction is I'm almost like it's hard not to spoil anything, but I'm relieved that I really, really did love it, and it was an amazing experience to watch in the IMAX theater with all those people at the opening tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that big hats off to the Russo brothers, every character got their bit. You know, it didn't feel like it was unbalanced. It didn't feel awkward at all. It just felt like it literally felt like as smooth as it could possibly be, I think, in terms of gelling these characters together who had never met, and everybody has different motivations. Everybody has different thought process going into this situation. Everybody's kind of got their own little piece there, and it worked perfectly. Somehow they took all these pieces from all around the universe and they put them together, and it probably couldn't have been done any better.
So. Suffice it to say, we're both very happy with the film. Definitely recommend going and seeing it in theaters this weekend. Obviously, definitely see it with a big crowd of fans, people that have seen the other movies and are really excited for this. I think
crowd was really good. Yeah,
I think it'll definitely enhance your experience. IMAX, of course, I definitely always encourage that. And I think, we really can't do much else without getting into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, take our recommendation and go check it out ASAP. If you have seen it, obviously stick around. We are here, and we are going to have a pretty lengthy discussion about what predictions came true of ours, and what actually happened, and our thoughts on every little event. So let's
official spoiler warning.
Official spoiler warning. Here we go. I am fucking now. I can finally say how I really feel right now. I'm emotionally drained and just like in almost like a depressive state because this movie, especially the finale, like the last 20 or 15 minutes, oh my god. I mean, really throughout the movie, but really it didn't hit me as hard as it did until the last 10 minutes or so. Oh my god. We're not gonna jump to the very end of the story, but let's. That's kind of how I feel at the very moment. Gabe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm emotionally drained. Is a good way to put that. Like, you just feel like, what am I supposed to do now? Like where do we go from here? Like what happens now? And yeah, it's definitely something that builds up, and you kind of feel it as it goes. But the movie does such a good job at like pulling your intrigue with every next step that you don't have time to feel emotionally drained until the end when everything is actually finished, and you're like, holy shit, and it just like everything just kind of drains out of you.
Yeah, that's a really good way of summing it up. Now we'll reference our predictions that we had as we go through, but let's just start with the story. When we were talking about how we thought this was going to play out, I think we were both on the same page in that we said the movie would start with Thanos getting the Space Stone out of the Tesseract pretty early on, obviously from Loki, who had it on the ship at the end of Ragnarok, which we talked about in the last episode, and lo and behold, that's pretty much exactly how it opened up.
Yep. Yeah, it was literally almost the same shot as the Ragnarok after credit scene. The Asgardian ship was destroyed. You saw dead bodies. Opened up to Ebony Maw's narration, kind of. He's talking to them, saying that it's not, it's not suffering, it's salvation. Hulk gets in a really, really, really cool battle with Thanos. That's actually it's the only time we see Hulk the entire movie.
Spoiler.
Yeah, that battle is really cool, even though it's very short lived, and Thanos ends that really quickly.
Yeah, I'll definitely comment on that real quick. They are pretty much playing a trick on him. It seems as if Loki is working with Thanos and has kind of given up Thor and Hulk and Heimdall and the rest of the Asgardians. But then it turns out Loki is working obviously with Hulk and Thor to stop Thanos, and he says he kind of makes a callback to the original Avengers movie when Stark says, "You have an army," or he says, "Loki, I have an army. Well, we have a Hulk." Mm-hmm. He says, "Thanos, I have Hulk," and so Hulk jumps Thanos and he's fucking beating the hell out of him, and then Thanos comes roaring back, and it's like the most epic boxing match like you've ever seen. I mean, it was pretty awesome. It was awe-inspiring to see these.
Definitely a good way to set the tone at the beginning.
Yeah, it's brutal, and to see Hulk done in like that, basically knocked out by Thanos, and it just fucking, my jaw was on the floor right away. And Heimdall, after Hulk gets incapacitated, he sends him off to Earth, which is something we had mentioned in the last episode. You thought that, what was your thought about how Hulk would get to Earth?
I figured it was the Space Stone, and Loki just used that and was like, hey, before shit hits a fan, let's at least send Hulk back to war and the rest. And it was almost the same. It wasn't the Space Stone, obviously. Heimdall used the Bifrost, and he sent him. Pretty much was the last thing he did. Thanos saw that, and Thanos killed Heimdall.
Yeah, first death of the entire film.
Heimdall.
Not the last. Heimdall, that is a permanent death, I think.
Yeah.
I think Idris Elba's, it's never been a huge role, and I think it's pretty much done. It's a bummer because I feel like we never really... Heimdall's not a major character, but I think it would have been cool to see more of him, or in the previous films had Idris Elba, because he's such a talented actor in like a bigger role. But I thought the death was equal to the character, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't anything spectacular, but it was honorable.
Yeah.
It kind of got the point across. It did what it needed to do, and then Thanos killed him. And then they all watched that.
Thor's upset.
Yeah, Thor's very upset. Ebony Maw, obviously has him in some sort of trap where he can't move. And then Loki gives one last shot at being mischievous, and he tries to give himself up to Thanos. Secretly pulls out a
dagger.
Yeah, a dagger to try to end Thanos. Thanos, he has a space stone at that point because Loki had given him the Tesseract.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got the space stone there, and so Loki tries to pull a fast one, and Thanos stops it midair, and that's the end of Loki.
It's and you could feel it. You could feel it. We predicted that Loki was one of the most certain deaths that was going to happen in this movie. This also feels like a death that is not going to be changed in any way.
Thanos even says he's like this time he's not coming back.
Yeah, because it's playing on the fact that Loki has died, quote unquote, in previous films. Man, it was so jarring to me just because even though I knew it was coming, to see Tom Hiddleston die as Loki, he's like perfect for that role and has been for years now. It definitely hurt to see that. And Thor obviously has a strong reaction to that. Chris Hemsworth, which we'll get more into him later, but he gives a really awesome performance in this movie. And there was, the emotion was written all over his face, and it was just fucking heartbreaking. I guess that's all I'll say about that. Thanos bails after that, leaving leaving Thor and to die basically. The ship explodes and he is left out in the devastation of all that.
So do we want to go to how the Guardians find him then? Because next they go to the Sanctum in New York.
Yeah, let's go to the Sanctum.
Okay, so next we find the Hulk being transported to the Sanctum in New York, obviously. And Banner falls right through the Sanctum as we see in the trailer. And, Loki and Wong are looking down on him. And, yeah, I mean, his first words are Thanos is coming. And
then, it does each Avenger movie has a little bit of a prologue. And the Loki, Thor, Thanos situation with the Hulk fighting Thanos and stuff, that was the prologue of this. And then he says, yeah, Thanos is coming. And then Doctor Strange and Wong are, like, looking over him. And Doctor Strange is like, who? And then it cuts to Avengers, Infinity War, the title card. Really, really well done. And then we stay in New York City, and we get Tony Stark, and this is the first time we've seen him since Civil War. Well, no, Spider-Man: Homecoming. He was in there a little bit last year, obviously, mentoring Peter. But this is obviously him and Tony and Banner have not seen each other since Age of Ultron, which came out 3 years ago now. Which I feel really fucking old saying that, but yeah, so we also when we get to see Tony, he has a nice little scene with Pepper.
Yeah, and that was cool. They're talking about how they're getting married. Tony referenced a baby, but Pepper said it's not, she wasn't pregnant. But I didn't know if that was going to end up being foreshadowing. We found out it wasn't, unless we find out eventually that it is. Yeah. But for right now, she's not having a baby, but they were planning on getting married. And then Strange pops up in the park. He says...
I loved, in this whole movie, right off the bat, the dynamic between Strange and Stark.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't think they were going to be arguing like that or anything. I thought they were just kind of... I guess I don't know what I expected.
I think Strange... I just rewatched Doctor Strange for the first time since theaters last night before this movie we saw Infinity War. And I forgot, like, he is such an asshole. He's such a dick. And I guess he's really the only guy that could go toe-to-toe with Tony mentally, too. Obviously, he's very, very intelligent. But yeah, that was a really cool thing. And right off the bat, he's calling him an asshole, and he's not backing down, which you really don't really see. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is about that action from like moment one. He tells Stark we need to go, and then Banner comes out, and that's when we see Stark and Banner kind of reunite. They give a little hug. They kind of debrief Tony on everything. To tell me your name again. So that's kind of how I predicted it is, they would debrief him real quick. And then obviously you see everybody running in the streets and they go out there.
This part is also really, really well done because the four of those guys are standing in the Sanctum. And then there's a vibe in the air. You can hear things and it's really weird. And the people are running outside and Tony just kind of like, he knows something's up. So he just walks out. And it's shot so well, and it was really, really, really well done. And what we know right after that is that one of the spaceships is coming down, as you see in the trailers, the donut one that they call it in the movie, comes down, and two of Thanos' children, quote-unquote, children of Thanos, they are in the streets.
Yeah, so it's Ebony Maw, who's like a wizard, and then Cole Obsidian, who's just brutally crazy strong. Yeah. So obviously you see the battle there. Spidey saves Iron Man's ass, which was really cool to see. That was a good moment. There was a lot of clapping moments in this film. A lot.
Yeah, people were going fucking nuts. During this movie.
And so that all happens. The fight between Ebony Maw and Doctor Strange was really cool to see.
Yeah.
Eventually, obviously, he captures Strange. They all end up on the ship. The introduction to the Iron Spider suit was fucking great, as expected.
As well as the introduction to the bleeding edge armor for Iron Man. Really, really cool. Really, the designs are just awesome.
Yeah. They were perfect.
Especially because they're in the comics they really stand out, and they made sure that was the case in the film as well.
Yeah. So they all end up on the ship. Basically, it's Tony, it's Peter, and then it's Doctor Strange's cape. Who are trying to save Doctor Strange from Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw's torturing him. And obviously, Ebony Maw couldn't break the spell to get the time stone, so they had to try to extract it a different way. But yeah, so they obviously end up saving him. Ebony Maw gets fucking sent out to the space, and he's
Peter
frozen.
Parker, he has that plan in Civil War to take down Ant-Man from this really old movie, Empire Strikes Back, and then he references Alien for this plan that he has, and it's basically just fucking use the vacuum of space to suck him out, which is really funny and smart on Peter's part, of course. And then once they save Strange, it's back to business and back to kind of Stark and Strange butting heads.
Yeah, and the Iron Spider suit in that scene was fantastic.
Yeah, don't get know this. The Iron Spider suit in this whole movie, I thought was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like they used it.
It never failed.
They used it to its fullest potential.
Yeah.
I mean, the arms, but what we're talking about in this specific scene, the arms on his back finally come out, the big four arms. And it was awesome. It was awesome.
That was fantastic. So obviously they're butting heads, and then they agree to bring the fight to Thanos on Titan instead of going back, which is very interesting. But I guess I can see why they wanted to save Earth and kind of limit the damage there.
Right.
So,
Tony makes a very good point. I thought that was well done. Also, there was another nice moment going back a little bit here. There's a nice moment when they first get on the ship, and Tony. They're leaving Earth's orbit essentially, and Pepper calls him because she knows he's involved in New York City with this threat, and it kind of continues that emotional beat from before, and she just doesn't want him to go because she's almost lost him all these different times, and he has this responsibility he feels to everyone on Earth because this thing has been haunting him ever since New York, and it's very like that. I liked Pepper. The little bit we saw of her in this movie, between her and Tony, I thought was really well done. Also, when Tony gets on the ship, he tries sending Peter back down to Earth using a parachute that's on the Iron Spider. Peter actually manages to stay on the ship and gets back in and kind of like startles Tony, and he's just like, he's upset, but he understands, and but he doesn't want to feel responsible if anything happens to him. And
they even reference that because Tony's like, I mean, I think later on Peter's like, remember. You brought me on here or something like that, right? And he's like, yeah, if something happens to me, you brought me on here. And then Tony's like, seriously?
Yeah.
And then Peter's
because
like,
Tony has had all these different moments in these films where he ends up feeling responsible for something bad that happened to someone, and I really liked that they're actually continuing that development and showing that in his character. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. is obviously amazing as the character, and this is one of his best performances without question. Iron Man is an amazing performance. And Civil War, I think, was also really, really, really great. And here he continues that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like he almost feels like Iron Man as a character almost feels insignificant in the grand scheme of it.
Yeah,
just as him alone. So it's really just kind of crazy to see his performance there and how emotionally developed he is in that. And then in the grand scheme of what Thanos is doing, it really doesn't matter at all. Like he's very insignificant.
Yeah, I totally agree. So after they get that situation sorted out on the ship, what is going on back down on Earth with all this?
So then it goes to Scotland.
Right.
So Scotland. So that's where Scarlet Witch and Vision are. They're talking about, do they want to stay? Do they want to go? They see that the craziness that happened in New York, and then in a crazy scene out of nowhere, Vision's talking, and all of a sudden Corvus Glaive stabs through Vision with his scepter from behind, and it stuns everybody. It was almost like a scary moment.
Yeah.
And so that, jumped everybody. So there's a 2-on-2 fight with Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight and Scarlett and Vision. Vision's pretty fucked up pretty bad. That Vision, he gets fucked up pretty bad, and he doesn't heal well. He can barely stand. Right. Then luckily Cap comes. Cap, Falcon, Scarlet Johansson, Black Widow. I don't know why I keep doing that. But she, they all come there, 5-on-2, really 3-on-2, because Scarlet Witch is just tending to Vision.
Yeah, Vision is fucked up right off the bat. He is, as far as like being a combatant goes, like he's a non-factor in the entire movie.
Yeah, which I guess kind of had to be like that because he's so powerful.
Right.
And
I liked also, this is just the beginning of it in this scene, but the relationship between him and Scarlet Witch I thought was really well done. Paul Bettany is also really fucking good, and Elizabeth Olsen. They're both really good in this movie. That's definitely, I thought that was well done. Yeah,
in a weird way, those are two of the most powerful characters, and they were neutralized off the bat.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really necessarily combat related, just because that's what the semantics of getting the stone out required. And so that all happens. Obviously, they Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, they're not dead, but they're defeated, and they transport back up to the ship. They leave, and and then they return to the Avengers facility.
Right. Yeah. They go back to New York, and there they meet up with Rhodes, who is there, and he has basically braces on his legs to allow him to still walk after the incident in Civil War. And they have a good it's basically them reuniting. Banner also kind of surprises them because he, like I said, hasn't been seen since Age of Ultron. Here's they acknowledge a little awkward moment between him and Black Widow. Falcon makes a little joke about that, which I thought was really funny. And it was just nice. It did feel like they're like family, like coming back together. But they don't have time to really settle in or have a bunch of pleasantries because this huge fucking thing is on its way. Banner knows Thanos. He knows that this is a huge issue and they need to figure it out ASAP. And that's where they start getting into a debate about Vision and his stone. And Vision has his own opinion on it, and Cap has...
Vision wants to sacrifice himself.
Right.
Cap says we don't trade life for life. And obviously they decide to go to Wakanda. Then
Right.
it cuts from there, and we go back to the Guardians.
Yes, the Guardians... Well, they're flying through space, and right away they established that they got a distress signal from the Asgardian ship, but they didn't know who was on it. They don't know exactly the details. They just know there's a ship in trouble. So they pull up. Everything is obviously the ship exploded earlier in the film.
There's bodies literally just floating
But
around.
yeah, bodies are floating through space.
Thor isn't the only one.
Yeah, Thor, of course, is one of those bodies. Gets hit on the windshield, and they pull him in, and then really... His interactions with the Guardians, especially in this initial scene, really, really well done. I thought it was funny, but also they got a good job of like getting the points across about Thanos and what's going on.
Yeah, that was a very interesting thing, and they didn't do this like kind of wacky Thor humor. It was definitely more of a little bit subtle, which is good, to kind of balance out all of the wackiness from the Guardians. So they obviously decide to split up. They go Groot and Rocket go with Thor to go to I don't remember what the planet's name is, but they go to get the Stormbreaker, just as everybody predicted. And then Gamora they know they're going... Thor tells the Guardians that Thanos is going to nowhere now to get the Reality Stone. He tells them that the Reality Stone is there with the Collector. There's a funny piece where Starlord's like, only an idiot would give their Collector an Infinity Stone. And Thor's like, oh, well, maybe a genius would. And then, basically, Gamora, Starlord, Drax, and Mantis all go to nowhere. And they meet up there, and then this is where the emotional draining really kicks in.
Shit, there's a really, as you said, Thor goes off with Rocket to this place where it's basically where they forge all the weapons. Mjolnir was forged there, his old hammer that got destroyed. So they have to go make this new one, because without that, he doesn't think he can kill Thanos. At least they go to nowhere, but on the way, there's a really, really emotional scene. Gamora, Zoe Saldana in this film, another fantastic performance. She really brought it. And it's basically her talking to Starlord, and he, he's fucking around, messing around.
He's trying to be quippy.
Yeah, and she's super upset, and she basically says, "I know something, and if Thanos gets his hands on me or tries to take me away, you have to kill me because he will get this info out of me, and the whole universe will be at risk."
Yeah, and we know she's talking about the Soul Stone because even before that, when they're discussing the stones, she kind of I can't remember exactly what it was, but
there was a look on her face when they mentioned the Soul Stone, and you could tell she knew something.
Yeah,
and so there's this conversation between her and Peter, and she is dead serious. She's like, "You have to kill me," and Peter doesn't want to, he doesn't want to do that, of course, because they're in love, because this is a couple years after Volume 2, where at the end of that they kind of established, they have a thing going on.
Yeah. I mean, you even see Gamora singing when they first introduced them, which she would have never done.
Yeah,
that.
There's some good subtle developments with the Guardians, but yeah, and so Peter, she says, you need to swear on your mom's life that you're going to do this, and he says, okay, I'll do it. And that sets up, as you were saying, they get to nowhere, and then shit really does go off the rails.
Yeah, so Thanos, Drax sees Thanos harassing the Collector, and he's like, I have to do this. So he tries to go, and then before he can do that, though, Gamora pops out and then tries to get a one-on-one with Thanos, and it looks like she's killed him. It looks like she killed Thanos.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, straight up, he's fucking dead. And then the Reality Stone kicks in. So he wasn't dead. He was alive. He knew she was going to come. He banked on that. Then Drax started running up. He fucking turned him into blocks. And that was, that's when the theater, really lost their fucking mind at first.
Because we've never seen
anything like that at
Our
all.
heroes, like, in this situation, you know, they hit us over the fucking head badly in the opening scene with Loki getting killed and Heimdall getting killed and Thor, you know, being powerless and Hulk getting his ass kicked.
And even that, we were like, okay, like we kind of expected that.
that.
Like, okay.
But this is you know, really, because especially with the Reality Stone, it's really fucking with the audience's heads and, you know, us included. And then once we, you know, what's going on with the Reality Stone, it's kind of like, well, shit, I don't know how they're gonna get out of this, or like, I don't know. It was so interesting and refreshing to
the stakes got like legit.
Yeah,
right
it was so interesting and freaky to be watching an MCU like movie and like a scene where I didn't know how the scene was going to end. Like, I did not know who was going to be alive when this scene ended.
Yeah, that was.
And we're not talking about the end of a movie. We're talking about like
that
the first,
scene,
like
the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Drax comes, he turns him into fucking blocks. Although it doesn't kill him, and then Mantis tries to come, and she goes in like
ribbons.
spaghetti. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's fucked, and Starlord's still hiding. Starlord is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then Starlord runs up. Thanos allows that to happen. He's got Gamora kind of hostage.
Yeah, he's just rattling off insults at Thanos. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the nutsack reference as the chin. That was terrific. That was great. I'm glad they mentioned that. And then so he's kind of got Gamora hostage. And at first, Starlord's pointing his gun at Thanos.
Yeah.
And then Gamora was like, "You promised."
Yeah, the emotion really sets in here.
That was a very powerful scene, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck he was gonna do, and then, but in my head, in my gut, I'm thinking
it's not real.
I thought about that, but I said, if this is real, I think he's gonna shoot her. I think he's really gonna shoot her because he promised that he would. And lo and behold, he pulls the trigger and fucking bubbles come out.
Oh my god!
Fucking bubbles come out of his gun, and Thanos is like, "Wow," you know. He just kind of like, "Wow."
He was playing them the entire time.
Yeah. And so he like that. He disappears with Gamora through the portal, and Mantis, and because he's left with the Reality Stone, Mantis and Drax go back to normal. But the two of them and Starlord are just like, what the fuck? Like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. So from there, where does it go back to?
I would say
Strange and
I would
Iron
say
Man.
that
They finally land on Titan. So you see that scene where the donut.
They struggle to land it safely.
The donut spaceship comes crashing in. But you know, obviously they're all okay. And then there's a really cool fight happens.
Oh, this was an excellent.
Oh
scene.
no, you know, when does it? No.
What?
So it goes to Thanos' ship first.
Okay.
With Gamora
Well,
and Nebula.
Okay, let's follow Thanos and Gamora then.
That's where it goes.
What
right?
happens? Yeah, what happens with that?
So you know,
his ship is huge, by the way.
Massive. So he takes Gamora to his ship, kind of to his main room, I guess, with his throne there, and
this room is.
It's hardly a room.
It's a huge like landscape on this ship.
Yeah.
And
this is actually a really emotional, good tie-in that gives you more insight into what Thanos is doing and why.
Okay, yes. Also, we need to go back real quick. We totally forgot. There is a scene when Gamora is on the ship. Before she has the emotional conversation with Peter, she has a flashback to when she was a child and her planet got attacked by Thanos. And Thanos, like, has a soft spot for her and, like, takes her in. Half of her fucking population is getting slaughtered behind her, but he does this little trick with her and talks about balance and uses this little knife to show that, which is just like obviously the theme, one of the big themes in the movie. And then, as you say, once we get that flashback, obviously it gives us more insight to Thanos and his relationship with her. But yeah, it really, I don't want to say it humanized Thanos, but
it did. I mean, it's closest thing
basically,
he's gonna get to a human.
Yeah, and it was just so alarming to like feel that for this guy has fucking murdered billions and is planning on murdering many, many more. And then, but as you said, we are on the ship and they have their real first interaction in a long time on his ship.
And then, so yeah, he's talking about, you know, why he's doing what he's doing. He really sees himself as a savior, basically, to the universe and everything in poverty. He talks about how, you know, Gamora's planet was in poverty. They were on the brink of extinction.
Yeah, he basically his MO, just to be clear, is essentially population control. And, you know, his main goal that they talk about several times throughout the movie is that he wants to, once he can get all the Infinity Stones, snap his fingers like the comic, and kill half the universe.
Yep.
And it basically, in his experience, he thinks that killing half of populations on these planets and stuff is the best way to correct society and like
Yeah. And so then we see Nebula in a room being tortured, basically.
Oh,
her
yeah.
body parts are all scattered out.
Yeah, the visual on this is very bizarre and creepy.
Yeah, it's not pretty to look at.
Yeah.
So Gamora obviously sees Nebula. Thanos says that Nebula tried to sneak onto the ship and kill him, and apparently she almost did it, according to Thanos. And basically what happens is Thanos uses Nebula's torture to get the Soul Stone location out of Gamora. And we found out it's on what's the planet called? Vormir.
Apologies if we can't pronounce these things exactly right. These are some places I don't know if they exist in the comics.
I'm sure they do.
Or what? I didn't know any sort of background on this planet specifically. But yeah, so that he figures out where it is. They go there. Let me say the stuff in this movie, especially not really the Earth stuff, but a lot of the stuff out in the universe, out in outer space, these different planets and whatnot, the visuals were fucking stunning. The scale that some of the images had, like when they get to this planet where the Soul Stone is believed to be, they arrive and they're kind of like on the sand dune type thing, and you can see like how small Thanos and Gamora are, and then it just the draw distance and like the way they use the space and stuff was really, really well done. I haven't seen that in a comic book movie in, I don't know, ever, maybe? Yeah. It was very, very well done. It kind of reminded me of a lot of the big landscape shots, like the vistas in the Lord of the Rings movies. Obviously, those were like real, like in New Zealand and stuff, obviously, so it's different. But I thought the VFX artists, obviously, and the cinematography and the way the Russos handled it was very well done.
Yeah. So they go up to like on top of the mountain, and then we get a massive, huge
fucking surprise. There is so they climb up this mountain. They're trying to get to this specific location to get the Soul Stone. Someone is in their path, and it's a hooded, like cloaked figure,
almost like a little ghost type of thing.
Yeah, and he started talking. He's talking to him. He's like, "I know who you are. I have to like. It's my responsibility to like know who comes up here. Blah blah." And I'm like, when I was sitting there for this minute or so that this guy's talking and you can't see who it is, I thought this voice sounds really familiar, but I couldn't figure out exactly who it was. And then he like comes out of the shadows, and Gabe, who the fuck is out in the middle of fucking space waiting for Thanos and Gamora?
Red fucking Skull. I couldn't I was shocked. And there were rumors about him, being.
I remember those. That was like a long time ago.
Yeah,
and I thought it was just kind of like
whatever,
drifted away. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he fucking showed up as the sort of the keeper of the fucking Soul Stone, basically.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He talks about how he tried to get the stones at some point.
As we see in the first Avenger, obviously.
Yeah, he references basically what happened in that, and he knows he can't hold them, but basically it's his responsibility now to keep the Soul Stone, and he tells them. And this is actually a really, 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 I love this scene. Yeah. He tells them that there's a sacrifice required, and Gamora thinks she's won. She's like, you don't love anybody.
Yeah, because the sacrifice is that for the Soul Stone, you have to give a soul to get the soul.
A soul that you love.
Yeah, someone you love. It's a sacrifice that you have to make. And Thanos, Gamora is like, she's laughing. She thinks it's great because he's finally can't get what he wants. Like, he doesn't love anyone for real. He is just a monster. And then Thanos, he starts crying. Thanos starts crying.
And she thinks at first he's crying because he can't get what he wants.
He can't get what he wants.
She's like, really?
He's like throwing a tantrum essentially. But it's like real slow tears. I'm just like, holy shit. It kind of like floored me at first because I didn't really expect that. And then Red Skull has a great little line where he says the tears aren't for him.
Yeah, the tears aren't for him. They're
And so Gamora's like, she's shook.
Gamora's smile goes away fucking quick.
And Thanos turns around and he's still like upset. And it was I don't want to say disturbing necessarily, but when Thanos has these like emotional moments where it's like creepily human, it shakes you.
Yeah, it's very jarring. And then he does the fucking deed. And you can tell it's painful to him. Like he grabs her by the hand, and she's trying to fight off. And obviously, he's not inflicting physical pain.
He says a line that references back to
him calling her little one.
Little one, right? Yeah, it's
He's like sorry, little one, or something like that. And he grabs her, and then she's trying to
she's fighting.
Yeah, she's trying to stop it. And you can tell there's pain in his face.
Yeah.
And then he chucks her off.
He throws Gamora over the cliff. She falls and is dead. She falls and is dead at the bottom. And also, let me say, like, we're talking about the emotions and the pain on, like, Thanos' face and stuff. The visual effects, the motion capture on Thanos, Josh Brolin, is fucking phenomenal. You can see, like, the little pores on his skin and hairs and all these wrinkles and stuff, and it's so well done. I didn't really notice any issues with them at all.
Not at all.
I was very, very impressed because I was worried. I can tell the mocap was really well done. It's like Planet of the Apes level, I would say, as far
the budget was fucking
as far as getting the emotions and stuff in there. She's dead, and it's kind of like the entire audience was in disbelief, obviously. But then he kind of like almost like passes out or something, and then he wakes back like where they landed on the sand dune, all the way down, beneath the mountain. And lo and behold, what's in his hand when he wakes up?
Yeah, so he wakes up and it's kind of like his hands under the water. That was those sand dunes that we were referencing earlier and that you saw earlier. The Soul Stone's right there in his hand. And then it just cuts back to... What does it cut back to? Titan, right?
Yeah.
And then I think this is where that fight comes between the Avengers, between Strange, Spidey, and Iron Man, and then Quill... and Mantis. Actually, I think it actually goes back to Nebula first. Nebula kind of breaks out of that thing. She kills the guard. She tells Mantis to meet them. Or to go to Titan. So then Titan.
Yeah, that's how the Guardians know to go to Titan, where Stark and them land.
Yeah.
And then once they land, this little scuffle.
Yeah, they're all fighting. That's really good. You see a lot of the
action is excellent.
one lines. Yeah.
The little combat between all these heroes, and then once they get into it's like a standoff basically. And I can't remember. Oh my God, Drax! Okay. Holy shit!
Yeah. So what happens is, Starlord's asking, "Where's Gamora?" And then Iron Man's like, "I'll do you one better. Who is Gamora?" And then Drax is like, "I'll do you guys both better. Why is Gamora?" And then that was probably the funniest moment in the entire film.
That might have been the funniest. That was one of the best scenes for sure. And then that's not that. That's just the beginning. Then they have like all this back and forth, and it's funny, but it's actually good dialogue because it's getting to the heart of like what the fuck is going on.
The humor like slides in perfectly. I think in just about all
scenes. I don't think it's
out of place really at all.
I didn't really have any major issues as far as the humor goes. Especially I understand the humor and like more in the first half of the movie.
It definitely cooled down.
It cools down, and that's I think the important part. And a lot of these movies maybe don't do that all the way correctly, but this one I thought did a good job.
Yeah, there's no laughing in the final 20 minutes or so. So they're fighting, and then obviously they realize they're all good guys. They all team up. They make the plan. And so at that point it's just kind of them making a plan because nobody else comes up to them at that point until Thanos comes later.
They're out on Titan on the surface, and there's a lot of banter. Still, I'm like laughing really hard because there's stuff between Starlord and Tony, and Strange is throwing stuff in there, and Mantis and Drax, and Tony's trying to come up with this plan. He's very serious. He knows what's at stake, and he's like having a hard time communicating and getting them to listen. Yeah.
And then we see probably the key part to what's going to be the Avengers and the Avengers 4.
Oh, huge moment. It's kind of...
This is the defining
moment. It's not made out to be like a huge deal at the time.
But it is.
It is, yeah. And what is it?
So you see Strange kind of... Mantis at first, she's like, does your friend do this often? And then the camera pans to Strange, and he's kind of fucking going crazy. And you can tell he has the time stone stuff, and you can tell he's like doing something with time. He kind of snaps out of it, and he says... He just looked through the future and, the future of all the possible scenarios of how this ends.
And he says it's like 13
it's like
million.
14 million or something like that. And then Iron Man's like, well, how many do we win? And then
the dramatic pause here is so well done. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat most of this movie.
I figured they were going to say 1, but I was like, no way they actually
I didn't know
one,
he was going
right?
to say fucking 0. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, no, it's 1. Yeah, that's what he says. And immediately I'm like, okay,
here we go.
This is huge. Yeah. This is huge.
Yeah, here we go. And so that kind of ends that little segment. There's no really action in there apart from when they're fighting each other. So that ends that segment. And then what does it go to? The introduction on Wakanda?
Yeah, they're going and setting up shop in Wakanda, and what's that all entail?
So, obviously they're introducing each other. Some people have never been to Wakanda.
Most people never.
Most people haven't. Cap and Bucky reunite. That's obviously good.
Bucky gets his new arm.
Yeah, actually, we see the introduction of Bucky getting his new arm. They call him the White Wolf. He says the White Wolf has rested for too long.
Yeah.
And then he gets his arm, and then we're ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Bucky says he gets the arm. He's like, who am I fighting?
Yeah. And then they go up to Shuri's lab, and they're examining Vision. Obviously, she's like, well, why didn't you guys just do this? And Mark Ruffalo was like, well, we didn't think about that. Yeah. So she can do it, and then she starts trying to do it.
But she says it's going to take a while. She needs them to buy as much time as possible.
Yeah, there's like millions of neurons that.
Yeah, all these different things, all this technical jargon, and so okay, that they're like, okay, all right, we're going to have to set up a perimeter, and this is where T'Challa says the lines from the trailers where he says,
evacuate the city.
Yeah.
Engage all defenses.
Yeah.
And get this man a fucking shield.
Yeah, get this man a shield.
That's great. That was like one of my favorite like lines.
Yeah,
in the trailers.
Cap's like, let's
really
do business, and so it's at that point where you're like, okay, this big battle we've seen in the trailers in Wakanda that's coming up.
And then you
quick.
see the pods that carry the Outriders start coming down and landing hard.
Yeah, and there's the protective barrier at the edge of Wakanda.
And that's actually that's some like you get some really cool scenes from that when the Outriders are trying to get through it, and like their arms are chopping off, and like half of their bodies are coming off, and eventually they find a way to get through it.
Yeah, very interesting visuals.
Yeah, and then so some of them can get through it, but most of them are at this point are trying to go around, and it's like, well, if they go all the way around and get through, then there's nothing between them and Vision, so they have to open up one of the barriers.
Right. Okay. Now we're gonna stop there for a second in Wakanda. And it's this discussion's kind of going similarly to the movie, where it's very like here and there and back and forth between these different people and locations.
Except theirs is way better done than what we're trying to keep up with.
Let's check in on Thor. Mm-hmm. Thor, Rocket, and Groot are out going to this place to forge the new weapon. And there's a really, really good scene between Thor and Rocket. A really good scene.
Yeah, so they kind of just talk about all they've lost, basically.
Yeah. Because these are two, at this point, very damaged individuals. Yeah. Rocket has always been that. But Thor now, since just Ragnarok, really, I mean, he lost his hammer and his eye and his
dad,
and
his sister,
and his sister and his brother. And Rocket actually says, oh, well, you still have a mom, right?
And then he's like, well, she was killed too.
Yeah. And Asgard, obviously, has been lost. And Chris Hemsworth, man, he did so well in this movie. He's kind of laughing at like the absurdity of it all and how much he has lost.
And then
he's crying. He's crying at the same time. And Rocket's just kind of. There were a lot of good moments where I thought in this movie especially with this interaction I'm talking about specifically, someone says something and then I thought the character they were talking to was going to say something like smart or like funny in response. But they just don't say anything. It's just a look on their face, and I'm like, okay, that's really good.
Rocket definitely felt Thor. You know what I mean? He felt what he was going through. He kind of understood.
Yeah,
which was good to see. Rocket is probably the most most like crudest character in the Marvel universe, and so he understood that. He got that. There's a little funny moment with Thor understanding Groot language.
Oh yeah, that was really that got a good laugh.
Yeah, he was like, they taught him in Asgard. It was an elective.
Yeah,
that was really funny.
But they arrive at this. It's not a planet necessarily. It's kind of like an outpost type thing. Yeah, where they have the power of this
star.
The power of this dead star is harnessed and used to forge these extremely powerful weapons. As we said earlier, Mjolnir was forged there. The Thor's old hammer, and they get there and it's shut down. And the rings that rotate to make it operate are fucking locked together, and it's abandoned. None of the dwarves that used to operate it are there, except for one. And they find this dwarf who's playing. And now we say dwarf; these are more like they're like huge, very tall.
They're
way
like bigger.
They're like dwarves from like The Hobbit, like Lord of the Rings, but they're very large. They're very tall,
but they have like bodies of a dwarf. You can tell they're a dwarf.
Okay, so and who is playing this dwarf? I can't remember the name.
Tyrion fucking Lannister. Peter Dinklage. Everyone was who
we knew he was going to be in the movie.
Everyone,
I forgot honestly.
No one knew who he was going to be or what. And he's kind of the keeper of the planet. He makes the weapons basically.
And he is the last one remaining because he tells the story.
He created the gauntlet.
He created the gauntlet for Thanos, which was a really cool tie-in that I didn't expect them to do, but I'm glad they kind of explained that. He did it under the pretext that Thanos would spare all of the lives or at least half the lives of the dwarves living there, and instead he killed them all except for him. And he mutilated his hands so that he couldn't forge any other weapons for anyone else.
Yeah.
So Thor, of course, he's like, well, I gotta fucking fix this shit. Otherwise I'm not gonna get this weapon or be able to kill Thanos. So he says, you have the knowledge to do this. You know how to do it. You've been doing it forever. I can be your hands. I'll get this star running again. I'll get the rings moving, and you just need to do the rest. Yeah. And so they come up with this really weird, like, elaborate plan to get the rings moving using just sheer force, essentially. Thor's a god, of course. And so he gets that going. But then the eye that allows the power from the star to go and melt the metal and to actually do the forging isn't opening up. So it's like they have half of it done, but the rest is not done. And Thor basically has to take on the full power of the star to get the weapon to work. And that was a really cool scene. I mean, it really shows off Thor's strength, obviously. I mean, he's handling all this power. And meanwhile, Peter Dinklage's character is rushing back and forth, making sure that the actual hammer axe slash thing is getting made.
Yeah, so that's really cool. Obviously, they end up making it. You see Groot finally step up and get off of his little game thing that he was playing.
Oh, yeah. That also another really good moment, because in this movie, we haven't really touched on Groot at all, because Groot is a teenager and he's an asshole and he doesn't care about
Kinda
anyone.
like your moody adolescent.
He doesn't care about anyone or anything, and he wants to play his video game, and that's it. But here he is really seeing the struggle that Thor's going through, and he feels like he can do something good in this situation. So he uses his arm to create this really awesome wooden
handle, basically.
Essentially, for Stormbreaker, the new weapon that Thor's using. So which is a really nice touch.
Yeah, and so Groot kind of sacrifices that piece of his arm. Obviously, he just grows back, but he sacrifices that piece of his arm to be the handle, because Peter Dinklage's character couldn't find the handle. So he just did that real quick, and then Thor he's incapacitated for a little while because the power of the star kind of totally fucked him up. And then you see him laying, and then there's a shot of like his hands basically, and you see the
lightning's crackling.
Yeah, and then it goes back to the Stormbreaker, and then you see that start to move a little bit.
And he catches it.
Yeah.
Which is fucking awesome. Now back in Titan.
Is it Titan?
Titan the plan has now been in place to attack Thanos and get the gauntlet off of him once he arrives. Finally, he arrives, and Doctor Strange is the one that talks to him right off the bat. Everyone else is hiding, and basically in this encounter, which I will say, like I said, I was not a big fan of the Doctor Strange origin movie. But I really liked Benedict Cumberbatch as Strange in this movie. He is extremely powerful. He has a lot of personality. And here, I thought he had a really nice moment with Thanos, where Thanos kind of explains what happened to Titan and kind of how that formed him as a person. And Strange is, of course, not having any of it.
And then basically their plan is to ambush him. Strange is kind of talking while they're ambushing. Iron Man brings down a whole building or something, a big blob of metal on top of Thanos, crushes him under there. Then you see Thanos use the fucking Power Stone, and he's like, ah.
This action sequence is nuts. I mean, it's Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Spider-Man and Starlord and Drax and Nebula and Mantis versus Thanos with the gauntlet, and 3 of the stones are on it. 4 stones on it now after the Soul Stone. And it's fucking nuts.
This is where the stakes feel incredibly high.
Yeah,
basically.
it's like you don't know what's gonna happen by the end of the scene.
Yeah, at first they're really fucking up Thanos, and they get him.
The plan is really good.
Yeah. They get him in there. Obviously, Starlord still wants to know about Gamora, so they get him incapacitated. They get Spider-Man has one side holding down, and Iron Man's the other side holding down. And Mantis comes in and puts him to sleep, basically, or sleep as much as she can. Yeah. But he's very weak. Yeah. Can't do anything. And
he's like semi-conscious.
Yeah. And then Spider-Man and Iron Man are literally just trying to yank the glove, the gauntlet off of Thanos.
And now this is where Starlord shows up.
Yep.
And this is where the plan goes awry. He goes up to Thanos, and he's kind of rubbing it in his face. He's like, "Where's Gamora? Where's Gamora?" And Nebula, she knows that she's dead, and what Thanos did.
Because even Mantis, she's like he's mourning as she's feeling Thanos' feeling. She's like, he's mourning.
Yeah, and that's what kind of tips off Nebula. And then Starlord he loses his cool.
And he starts beating the shit out of Thanos, which kind of wakes him up in a way.
Yeah.
And
ironically.
And then there's this shot you can see the gauntlet is being pulled off of Thanos, and Spider-Man kind of has it like just out there,
about to come,
and then you can see like kind of like Thanos' thumb just kind of gets it right back, and he slides it back on, and that was wild.
I was like I said, on the edge of my seat. I really thought because you want them to get it off so badly, and then
once we see he doesn't get it off, like, well, what the fuck are they supposed to do now?
Yeah,
like there's so many moments where you're like, there's no way they're gonna get out of this. Like, how does this happen? And so there's more battling. This is kind of where Thanos takes back the momentum. He starts going ape shit. And you see a really cool bit with Strange, and Strange kind of takes him, like he multiplies himself basically.
Yeah.
Using the different like dimensions, I guess, and he gets him tied down. But then Thanos, busts out of that and finds the real Strange, and then he kind of incapacitates him, and everybody kind of takes their turn trying to get at Thanos. Yeah. He incapacitates the next one. Spider-Man's trying to save everybody who's floating around after Thanos fucked him up.
Because it's at this point, once he escapes the big hold when they almost got the gauntlet off, he fucking takes down one of the moons from Titan, and obviously these huge pieces of moon are smashing into the planet. And Spidey is trying to save the people that are because the gravity is low. They established that, so they're kind of floating off once the debris hits, and he's trying to save them. Tony's flying around, and Strange is also like flying around. It's crazy. But really, what it boils down to at the end is Tony and Thanos. And Gabe, what happens?
Yeah, so Tony gets his licks in for sure, and all that, and then you see like Thanos has a little tiny cut, and Thanos is like all of that for one drop of blood, and I mean that just at that point you just kind of realize like fuck, like they really fucked him up, and that's all that's all they have to show for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Iron Man, they get in a fight, and then at some point Thanos just can't stop Thanos. Thanos is just too powerful, and Thanos is wailing on him, just wailing the fuck on him, and then Iron Man almost gets it. He tries to like something from his suit kind of comes into like a sword type of thing, a blade, and tries to get it through Thanos, but Thanos catches it, turns it around, and puts it right through Iron Man. I thought Iron Man was gonna die. Like I was like that moment got me bad.
Yeah, it goes right through him, and the air was sucked out of the theater. Like, it was...
I'm not sure if I've ever experienced quite anything like that.
Yeah, like, it was fucking brutal. And you're like, I didn't see a way out. I thought for sure he was going to die. I was really in disbelief, so I didn't have... And the situation's about to get turned around. But I was in such disbelief, I was like, I don't know how to fucking react to like this. I don't know. Like, he can't die. Like, he can't die right now. And so what happens is Strange yells, stop. Because he's... Obviously, Tony is like fucking bleeding out of his mouth, and he's incapacitated. Thanos is about to finish him, and then Strange stops him. And he says, I will give you the time stone. I will finally give you the stone if you spare his life.
Which is a bit of a payoff from earlier in the film. Yeah. Strange is like, just know that if it comes down to you, the kid, or the stone, I'm going to protect the stone.
I'm going to protect the stone at all costs, and I'm not going to hesitate to let both of you and everyone else die if that's what it takes, because... I need to do what I need to do.
Yeah, for the universe.
Yeah, so that was really good. But what changes the situation is what happened earlier when he goes through all the different scenarios and he says there's only one way we win.
And that's a bigger payoff in that situation. And that pays off like two things.
Yeah, and so Strange, he gives up the stone, Thanos takes it and disappears. He disappears. And we know where he's going because there's only one stone left to get. And Tony's like, why? Like, first off, when he's giving it up, he's begging him, like, don't do it. Like, don't do it. And then once he leaves, Strange is like, it was the like it's basically understood that he says we need to play the long game.
Yeah,
like the end game. The end game is here, and right away I turned to Gabe and I said, "This is setting up Avengers 4. This is setting up Avengers 4. They're going to. He needs to keep Tony alive. He needs to keep him alive, and giving up the stone at that moment was the only way to do it because." He's trusting that Tony will be able to fix it somehow.
Yeah, basically.
No matter what.
Yeah, or he just flat out knows, I guess. And so he goes to Wakanda, and well, I guess even before that, you see in Wakanda, Thor comes back, and he's when Thor arrives on Wakanda and fucks up the Outriders.
The battle's fully on at this point.
The battle's going crazy. Even after the Outriders come, they send down these killer.
Yeah, they're like big ass like lawnmowers.
Yeah,
or like
tractor wheels.
Yeah,
basically, and they have.
It was
spikes
very
on them.
weird.
Yeah. And they come from underground, so they go underneath the barrier, and they start fucking people up. And so, Cole Obsidian and Proxima Midnight are there.
Yeah, so those two are on the battlefield taking on individual superheroes, and sometimes more than one.
Oh, and Corvus Glaive is there as well.
Yeah, and so Corvus Glaive, who's he go after?
So once the big wheel things come out, Scarlet Witch is like, okay, I got to go out there and do this. So Scarlet Witch helps.
She saves their asses.
Yeah, she saves
time.
A lot of them. But then like Vision unprotected. Corvus Glaive sneaks up from there, and then Shuri tries to stop him, but no, obviously there's no way. The Vision's like, well, fuck, I gotta get off of the table and fight. So we get Vision versus Corvus Glaive. Vision ends up killing Corvus Glaive because Cap comes and gets involved in the fight, and then from behind, Vision
he gets while Cap's distracting him. Really cool stuff with what was going on the battlefield. What are a couple of because this is the huge battle, you would say. What were some moments that stuck out to you? Of course, when Thor arrives on the battlefield,
that was
huge
great.
Moment because they haven't seen each other in a long time, but he just fucks up a bunch of enemies at once. He looks like the God of Thunder that we saw at the end of Ragnarok, and so there's a cool moment between him and Cap. He says, "You got a haircut," and he was like, "Hey, you're copying my beard." Also, another great moment because Rocket and Groot arrive with Thor. He says that Bucky and Rocket are like fighting together, basically shooting because they both have guns.
Yeah, Bucky picks Rocket up with his other hand,
and they're spinning
like,
around,
in a circle,
shooting.
just shooting around.
It's
awesome. Fucking awesome.
And then he drops him back down, and he says, Rocket asks to get his arm, like how much for the arm.
He's like, how much for the gun? And he's like, not for sale. Then he's like, well, how much for the arm?
And then Bucky just walks off, and Rocket's like, I'm gonna get that arm.
And there's another one where Cap is talking to Groot, and Groot's like, I am Groot, like introducing himself, and Cap's like, I am Steve Rogers.
Yeah, no, that was also great. Also, as far as like fighting goes, the Proxima Midnight, she starts taking on Black Widow and Scarlet Witch and Okoye, and that's a really
a really good scene,
that's a great fight because the choreography is really good, and you can it was so satisfying to see them take her on because she obviously had been a fucking thorn in their side.
Yeah, and the way it happened is she was initially battling Scarlet Witch at first.
Right, yeah.
And then she was like, you're going to die alone just like him. And then you hear Black Widow like, she's not alone.
She's not. That was a great moment.
And then you pan behind Proxima Midnight, you see Okoye.
Yeah.
And it's like all these women here, and they're just like about to fucking kick ass. And that was like easily one of the most like coolest parts of the film.
Yeah.
And so they start fucking her up. And then what happens is Scarlet Witch uses her powers, and there's one of the big wheels coming, and she just tosses, kind of like from Civil War when she
tosses Cap through the window.
So she tosses Proxima Midnight up
and just the thing hits her. Yeah,
and she's fucking dead. And then you see Black Widow with like some of her blue blood on top of her face.
Yeah, that was funny. Meanwhile, off the field and in the jungle, Hulk, not Hulk, but Banner in the Hulkbuster armor is taking on
Cole Obsidian.
Yeah, the big motherfucker. Yeah. And it was just a good matchup. And he actually, the way he gets out of it is that during their fight, one of the Hulkbuster arms gets broken off, and so he's fighting with one arm. He's trying to Hulk up and because that's the optimal situation.
And the Hulk is literally saying no.
The Hulk is like no, which was an interesting choice.
That's an interesting development.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see where that goes. Eventually, in the fight, he gets the hand that had broken off and sticks it to Cole Obsidian's hand, and says later, he hits the thing on the hand and it blasts off on its own, carrying Cole up into the barrier and burning him up. Essentially,
and so that's how he dies.
Yeah.
And obviously Vision kills Corvus Glaive, and now all of children of Thanos are dead.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter because at that point,
so Thanos, as we know, he just left. He took the time stone for Tony's life, and then he, like I said, he only has one place to go, and he shows up in the middle of that jungle after the battle's pretty much won. But Vision and Scarlet Witch are together, and Vision's like, you gotta fucking do it. And then there's this huge, really emotional moment between those two where he says, this is it, like, you have to do this. You have to kill me, destroy the stone. And while that's going on, Thanos obviously, like I said, shows up, and all the other heroes are like running at him and doing their best to like slow him down and stop him, while Scarlet Witch is destroying Vision essentially.
Yeah. And then he, easily just kind of fucks them all up. We get the Cap scene from the trailer.
Yes, where he's
holds him
holding off
and
the
then
hand.
Thanos just absolutely hits him with the hook.
Yeah.
For a second I thought it killed him, but I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah, it was cool. It was very well done because the music is great. Alan Silvestri's score is top notch, and I will say that it was an emotional, heavy moment because each hero is kind of like running at him almost like individually. And Cap's leading the way, and Bucky gets tossed down, and Cap, and Black Widow, and Falcon, and Rhodes, and Thanos. He has all these stones now. There's no way to stop him.
Yeah, and it comes down to Scarlett. While she's destroying the stone, she's also holding back Thanos with her other hand.
She's the last one standing.
And so Thanos is fighting through her powers, and it's a struggle for him. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And then eventually she does destroy the stone.
She does destroy the stone. Vision is dead.
Yeah, and so she's like pretty much drained. So she's like laying there.
And Thanos is
like, you tried.
He's like, he's almost like comforting her.
Yeah. Because
he knows how hard it was to sacrifice it, because he's sacrificed so much.
Yeah, there's even a line. He's like, I've lost more today than you'll ever know.
Yeah. Right now, he says something about time. It was an interesting line. And at that moment, I realized, oh my fucking God. He's using the time stone, and he starts turning back time over Vision, and Vision comes back to life.
And the stones
is right there, and he picks up Vision and rips the fucking stone out, just as we said he would, since Vision came to life, essentially.
Yeah.
Man, it was fucking brutal.
That was brutal. It was kind of just how I imagined it, though.
Yeah.
His big ass hand just kind of
rips it out.
There's a big dent in Vision's head.
Yeah, and he drops Vision. Vision like turns like gray and like lifeless. And then he puts the last stone in and completes it, and then it's like during this whole sequence, I'm like, where's Thor? Where's Thor? Thor fucking comes out, and he throws the axe. Stormbreaker hits Thanos. It was
through his chest.
People went ballistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it hits him dead in the chest. It's like deep in there. And Thor then lands, and he's got him. He's like, I've killed you. Like I said that I would kill you for what you did to like Loki. And Thanos has some words to say.
Yeah. He's like, what do you say?
He's struggling to get the words
at first, and he's like, you should have aimed for the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he snaps his fingers. And it's funny, as he was struggling, I kind of whispered over to you, I was like, he's going to snap.
Yeah. No, I fucking... And we just did our predictions like last week, like we said. And I said if I had to bet one way or the other that he wouldn't do it. Because I was just like, it would be too crazy and dramatic. But I thought it would be really cool. And at least if they're going to reference it, that's a nice like nod to the comics. But no, they fucking did it. They fucking did it. And... It was so well done, and I was amazed because he snaps, and then it immediately like cuts to white, and I'm like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then it goes to this weird like dreamlike land.
It's very quiet.
Very totally quiet. It's totally. I'm like, "Is this the end of the movie? Like, is this going to be the last scene?" And it's him and Baby Gamora like under the little temple where they like meet. For the first time, and
visually this is just stunning.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. And he goes up, and she says, "Did you get what you wanted?" or something like that. And what did it? He says yes, and then she says, "What did it cost?" And he says, "Everything." And very clearly, it couldn't be more accurate than that. And then I think that was the end of that little sequence, and then it cuts back, and it shows. Thanos kind of he just transports himself really quickly because he still has the gauntlet, and
although it's all like burnt up because he just snapped.
Burnt up because
but he still uses it to get space
to get away. And does he leave with the Stormbreaker in his chest?
I think it falls out.
It falls out. Okay, I couldn't figure that out. And then it turns into like the worst fucking nightmare you've ever seen, like in a comic book movie. It was.
It's something you're not ready for, something you're not prepared for.
Oh my god. Okay, so Thanos disappears. I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try to do this as it came like straight across in the movie. And this is the part, like I said, it's a fucking nightmare. And this whole movie, all these deaths are going on. It's very dramatic and heavy. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna get emotional during this movie, just because I haven't been as invested in these movies as some others have been. But Cap walks over to Thor, and I was amazed because they were both still alive, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And then off screen, you hear Bucky he's like Steve, and then it cuts over to him, and he's like
kind of walking.
He's like walking, and then he like stumbles and like turns to ash and like disappears.
Yep.
And it's like dead silent during all this. Like there's no music. It's
and like no one's talking to anybody. Like,
right.
Like Thor's like
it's very confusing.
Yeah. Cap's like talking to Thor, and Thor doesn't ever reply. And then people say things, but nobody.
It feels like a dream. Yeah. Kind of. But we know it's a fucking nightmare. Yeah. Essentially. And so Steve is just like kind of walks over, and he's like in disbelief, obviously, as is the entire audience. And you know what's coming. You know that this is not going to be the first person to disappear,
or the last person.
And the last person. And let's just kind of rattle off and describe how the rest of the people go. Bucky disappears. Okoye, T'Challa.
Yeah, at first I thought Okoye was going to disappear because it showed Okoye on the ground.
And T'Challa's walking over.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh shit, Okoye's about to disappear. And then Black Panther fucking disappears. He's like, and it's funny because he's telling Okoye, he's like, get up, this is no place to die.
Yeah.
And then as he's saying that, he disappears.
Yeah.
That's when I was like,
yeah, no, whoa. It was yeah. And then Falcon, he's like kind of crawling and turns to ash, and Rhodes is like looking for him. He's like Sam, where are you? And he's walking around after he turns to ash, and he doesn't know where Sam is. And then you had Groot and Rocket. They're standing next to each other.
That got me.
They were standing next to each other, and like I said, I'm just in disbelief at this point. I can't believe what I'm fucking seeing. Groot is turning to ash and disappearing. Rocket's like, no, like he's already lost Groot once. Like now he has to see him go again, and there's seemingly no way to keep him alive or bring him back. And you also have Scarlet Witch. She also, while she's like next to Vision's body, she just fucking disappears, turns ash, and goes away. Then we cut to Titan, and this is where, because at this point, like I said, I'm fucking shook. I'm admittedly in just disbelief and horror. I'm horrified, and it gets so much fucking worse. It gets so much fucking worse.
We get who's the first one to go for Mantis?
Mantis says, because they can feel something's wrong, and Mantis is like something feels like something has happened, and then she goes, and everyone's just kind of like, fuck,
and then Drax goes, and then you see Peter Quill, you see Starlord go away, and then
this fucking moment. At this point, I'm fine. I'm not fine, but I'm holding it in. I'm good. I'm gonna be fine. And then Peter, you look over at Peter. He has his mask off and shit.
He's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so
I'm like,
good.
he's like, I don't feel good. And I'm just like, I couldn't fucking, like, I just had fucking tears like streaming down my face. Like, I was like a blubbering mess. And fucking, he walks over to Tony, and Tony's like, no. Because like they talked about earlier in the movie, like he feels like really responsible, and he has like a really good relationship with Peter. He's like a son to him, basically. And he like lays him down, and
Spidey disappears.
Spidey fucking turns to ash and disappears. And
then he goes over to Strange.
Strange says, Tony, like,
this is the only way.
He's like, his last words right before he blows off into the wind. He says it was the only way.
Yeah.
It was like, those are his last words to Tony. That's the last thing. Tony is left with
Nebula,
and that's it on Titan. Which I imagine, I don't know what's gonna happen in the next movie, but I imagine that might be like his ticket out of there.
Yeah, which is good. Nebula's probably a good one.
Yeah. But I was like, I mean, it was, like I said, I was a fucking mess. It was horrific. And then it cuts back to Earth one last time, and it's Cap and Thor and all this, and Rhodes walks over, and the people that are still alive walk over, and they're like, what has happened? Like, what is going on? And I'm not exactly sure what the. Well, no, I can't remember what the last line was. I think Cap might have been like, "Oh no," or something like that.
Like, oh god.
Oh god, like he's in disbelief, shock. He probably is confused or like horrified, like he doesn't know what's gonna happen, and neither does the audience because it cuts to black, and that's.
No, it goes to Thanos.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Totally
Thanos
forgot
at the
about
end in that kind of a.
Thanos is the last part, which was interesting and a good choice
won.
because it's a payoff for earlier in the movie. He says he might have been talking to Gamora. He's like, I can't wait for the day where I do get the gauntlet completed and I kill off half the universe and
watch the sun
I
set
bring
on
balance and I see the sun
rise
on a new universe, a fresh universe with a new start. And he has like this little like cottage, like hut thing. Yeah. I'm not sure where it was, but it wasn't Titan. It looked really nice.
Yeah.
And he just walks in and he sits down and he watches the sunrise.
He doesn't have his gauntlet on.
He doesn't have his gauntlet on, and he starts smiling, and
That's that.
It cuts the credits.
Absolute insanity.
No, I mean, and we've been talking for a little more than an hour now, and it's still.
Yeah, it's just insane to think that like really happened. Like they really decided to do that. Thanos won. I mean, the Avengers did not win.
Yeah.
Thanos won, and they showed it by having him smile at the end, having him being the ending pitch.
So we've covered the entire plot. We've covered who lives, who dies. Covered the whole stone situation. Let's just recount real quick. What were our predictions for who lives and who dies? I will say we got it wrong.
Especially with Cap.
We got it wrong. Both of us were so sure that Cap would be the one to go because we thought he's gonna die a soldier's death fighting Thanos. It makes sense. It's what it reflects the comics. And then him and Tony were both alive when the movie ends.
Yeah, which is shocking.
And
Loki
was for sure.
Gamora, I got right. I don't know if you guessed Gamora. But I guessed Gamora.
I didn't commit to Gamora. I'm shocked. Here's my biggest question with that. The people that don't. Do you think the people that die that weren't turned into ash and by the finger snap? Do you think that they have a chance of coming back? Loki is gone.
Loki's gone.
You think Gamora's gone? You think Gamora's gone for good?
I think Gamora's probably gone, which would be pretty wild. I mean, I know she's in Avengers 4. But yeah, I think she's gone, and then I think Vision is gone.
Yeah, Vision's definitely gone. That was another one that was easy for us to call. But then all the people, because we didn't really think the finger snap was going to happen, honestly. And so that just throws a monkey wrench into the whole situation because not only are these people dead, quote unquote, but who's going to come back? Because of the people that got turned to ash, not all of them are coming back. I would think.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like all of them. Who wouldn't come back? Mantis, maybe. I mean, someone less important. I feel like they would all.
It's so weird because they. Do you at the end of Avengers 4 during Avengers 4 do you kill people?
Cat may die in Avengers 4.
Do you kill people that weren't turned to ash and then bring people back that were ash and dead and then so it's like kind of like a reverse like situation going on?
I mean, you could depending on what. Obviously, we don't know what happens, but Cap could die in Avengers 4 if Cap has to fight Thanos again.
Yeah, that's also another big question I have with Thanos. Like, where does he fit in now? Where does his story go? We have obviously we're going off of what Strange said. He says there's only one way to win, and Tony Stark has a huge part to play. Ant-Man is going to be in the next movie, and it's just is Thanos going to be like fighting these people in the next one or? And also, speaking of Thanos and death predictions, we got that one wrong.
Yeah,
we thought for sure Thanos would be killed and defeated, and we couldn't have been more wrong about that, actually. So, yeah, I'm emotionally drained. My brain hurts, and my heart hurts, and I have no fucking idea where it's going to go. Speaking of the last bit of footage in the film, the after credit scene, only one thing at the very end of all the credits.
You see Nick Fury and Kobe Smulders turn to ash.
Yeah, they're driving down the street and a car crashes into them, and then they get out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, who's in the car? Yeah. Like, what's going on? And then I realized there was no one in the car. And then I'm like, oh no, like this is the aftermath. Like you have to show what's going on in the rest of the world.
You see Kobe Smulders.
She turns to ash. The helicopter's crashing. Yeah. People are turning to ash in the streets, and then Nick Fury. I thought it was kind of funny. because Samuel L. Jackson, of course, is famous for saying motherfucker. And he, right as he's turning to ash, he's calling someone.
He's paging.
He's paging someone, and as he starts turning to ash, he's like mother, and then it cuts off. And he drops the pager, and then it closes in on the pager, and that's the last shot we get.
So sending, and then you see Captain Marvel's logo.
Yeah.
And so he's paging Captain Marvel wherever she's at in the universe.
Yeah.
He pages her to come through, basically.
Yes.
So she'll be there in Avengers 4.
She'll be in Avengers 4 for sure. Her solo film, like her origin film, is next spring. Before that movie comes out, so we'll get an intro to her and then have her play a role in the next one. Yeah, I guess. What do you think? What do you think now at the end of this and looking at Avengers 4? Like, what are your thoughts in general? I guess.
So I mean, they'll definitely go back and have to undo some of that stuff.
There's no fucking question.
It'll be. I mean, I guess since they don't have the Gauntlet and the Time Stone, it'll have to be the Quantum Realm.
Yeah.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp will be crucial, like low-key crucial to this universe, because that's going to introduce the Quantum Realm and the different universes and that sort of thing. And I mean, now that we mentioned the set picks in the preview, and all the people in the set picks, they didn't turn ash. Yeah, Captain America, Iron Man, and then Bruce, and then obviously Ant-Man.
Yeah. I don't know.
They're all still alive, and not Ash. They're alive. It'll be interesting to see Iron Man and Cap reunite, because they didn't reunite in Infinity War.
Oh fuck me! I didn't even. Okay, that is definitely one thing. Another prediction that I personally got wrong is I thought for sure all of the Guardians and Strange and Tony and Peter, I thought they would wind up reuniting with everyone else back in Wakanda. I thought that would be the big end game battle, and we didn't get that. And oh man, it's just a lot. It's a lot to take in. I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I am gonna be so curious to see how they fucking market this movie.
How
are they gonna show any footage? How are they even gonna portray the plot? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, who can you show? Who can you not show?
I mean, they'll show everybody who didn't turn to ash, basically. So Captain Marvel will probably be a big piece, especially coming off of her movie.
Yeah.
They'll probably show her a good bit, and then they'll throw Ant-Man in there a lot because he just came off his movie and he wasn't in this one. But yeah, I mean, I think the marketing will be very close to the chest, like it was in Infinity War, obviously. But yeah, I think they're gonna have it's gonna end with a big fight with Thanos again.
Really?
But I think Captain Marvel will.
And you think they'll win? Yeah,
Captain Marvel and Thor together will somehow have the strength to, to end that, because Captain Marvel has the power to wield the gauntlet. At least in the comics, she does.
Yeah.
So that could be something that happens. But yeah, we have no clue, and I'm watching Infinity War again tomorrow night or Friday night.
I'll be seeing it again this weekend at some point. I definitely am not like. I'm excited to see it again just because there's so many moments in it that I loved, and it's such a spectacle. But at the same time, like emotionally, I'm like, God damn, I don't know if I can handle all this again.
All right, last thing off rip. Where do you place Infinity War after one viewing?
In the MCU, if I had to rank it, definitely top 5. It's just the achievement with all this and the way they culminated everything. I would say spot 5 or 4. I don't think, just because personally the issues I had with it were, it's just so much. It's so much, and the story they tell is really good, and that there's the great performances from pretty much everyone. But it's just so big that I think personally, I think the smaller personal stories where you really get to spend a lot of time with one character, they're stronger, like the narrative and all that. I would say I'd probably still put like Guardians 2 and Winter Soldier above this one. Probably the first Iron Man 2, but it's definitely. Like I said, I have to see it again, and I just saw it, and who knows how I'm going to feel in 5 or 6 months or in a year. Especially also, this story is well told, and it has a beginning, middle, and end, but there's more. Like, this is essentially part 1 of a 2-part story.
Yeah.
As much as the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige would have you believe otherwise. So it's definitely, it's one of the best superhero movies, comic book movies, for the sheer achievement on a technical level and on the storytelling that has been built up to this movie and how they do pay a lot of that off.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's up there.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah, what do you think?
And they, I mean, off the top of my head, it's just like a top 3 thing. Just the shockiness and the fact that they finally went and did it all.
They went, yeah. I mean, yeah, no fucking doubt. Like, I had my concerns about how they would handle the tone and the humor, and if they would really take any risks. And I mean, they fucking swung.
They swung for the
fucking fences.
They hit a grand slam.
And hopefully, I just hope that it's great. It's great. I just hope that they don't
undo it.
It too much. They need to have resolution, and I think they'll do a good job because they did a good job with this one. And Kevin Feige has said that this movie and Avengers 4, they wrap up everything that's come before, and that includes these main characters that have been there since the beginning. So I think that'll be the end of Chris Evans, maybe even Robert Downey Jr., maybe Chris Hemsworth, and some of those other people. And then, like I said, it'll just be really interesting to see who they bring back, who they keep dead. Yeah, I think they will pull it off. It's weird to say that. I can't say for sure if they have pulled it off because I need to see the rest of the story. But for part 1, very good, very fucking good.
Yeah, and I do think that they're like what we saw in Infinity War is still its own story, but there's obviously a bigger lead off. So I think the ending, they did a really good job of wrapping up what the problem, what the story was in the first one. But clearly, there's more to be done.
Yeah.
But I think for wrapping up, like the ending was very satisfying. I don't feel like it was a crazy cliffhanger or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a cliffhanger, obviously, but it's nothing like he snaps and then we don't know who dies. Or
right.
like
no, I was very scared about that actually because. Like you said, once he snaps and it goes to that weird dreamland or whatever where he talks to baby Gamora, I was like, oh, no. Yeah. Like, if this is the last scene, I'm going to be fucking pissed.
Yeah, they wrapped everything up very well.
They did a good job. So, overall, I'd give it, I think I'd give it a 9 out of 10, right about there. Best comic book movie of the year thus far between this and Black Panther, I would say. I know Black Panther is like a huge landmark for a multitude of reasons and has been a huge success, but I definitely, this is a pop culture event that's been a decade in the making. I think the way our audience reacted, I think obviously this is going to make crazy fucking money. I think it's going to be very well received by the fans. Obviously go check it out. If you listen to all this, you've already seen it, but I think this will do well with repeat viewings and getting,
you kind of have to,
getting all the info back in your head. But thank you guys so much for listening again. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you would like to share your own thoughts down in the comments, please do. We love having discussions down there. Please leave a like. It means a lot. And subscribe to hear more content from us. If you haven't listened to the last episode, go check that out. And stay tuned. I don't know where the year goes from here. I don't know where the MCU goes. I don't know where the genre goes. But I am very, very pleased with what we got here.